Hey guys, I wanted to do this video while driving because I love it when people do videos while driving. And this awakening happened while I was driving. So, I call this video, and this story is called The Legion of Idiots. When we, I've talked a little bit about my past, and I guess what you could call mommy issues, and a lot of people have these issues rooted from their parents to, that really affect them. I particularly did. I had these mommy issues, like, constantly, that were coming into the relationships that I was having with women. And I didn't realize it. I just wasn't having good relationships, I didn't even, quite honestly, realize that I was having problems until many relationships into failing at them. Well, I love the sound of the rain, by the way, if you can hear that. Well, one day I was on the phone with my mom. She was driving, I believe. I was driving, and I was giving her directions to the place. We were both driving, talking on the phone. I was giving her directions to the place that I was at, and, she was confused, and, I guess from my perspective, her child came out, and my blood started to boil. I wanted to scream at her, like the ways that I have in the past, to be honest with you. Disrespect her, who she is, to her creator God. But I didn't. I didn't do it. I held it in because I was at a point in my life where I knew that this, sponsored by Arizona green tea with honey. I knew at the time that there was something going on with my mommy issues. And I knew also that I was sick and tired of hurting her feelings. I was sick of hurting her, period. Well, this was a particular time where like the universe threw at me the most frustrating thing that could have happened, And I was just, as small of a thing as it is to give directions, I was furious inside. And I wanted to lash out big time, but I didn't. And I almost like crippling on the phone saying, "Mom, I don't know. You gotta find it. I gotta go." And I had to just hang up the phone to dissipate all that anger. Well, through the residual of that anger, walking it down and contemplating why I was so angry and all this stuff, put myself in my mother's shoes. First time I really did that to somebody I loved so much and was so close to and was so influenced by. So I put myself in her shoes, and I put myself not only in her shoes, but from her entire life, like I was saying, original thinker. So I took from the origin of her life, from the stories I remembered of her growing up, from her, from other people, all of those stories, I just, in an instant, my brain had them all swirling around, to the relationship with her first boyfriend in high school that I had found out later that abused her, to, my grandfather who was verbally abusive, my father who was verbally abusive, never physically abusive. And I realized that she had been raised with men by the male energy. She had been raised by people with male energy that were idiots, that were complete idiots of how to treat one of the most tender, loving souls that you could ever want to know. She reminds me a lot of that little fish in the dory that she always forgets. But it always leads down this path of beauty. My mom is, well, I couldn't see this. See, before I had the Legion of Idiots moment, I couldn't see how beautiful my mother really was. So, after this flood of anger, this thoughtful process, this flood of love came over me and lifted right off of me all of the anger that I'd ever had towards her. It actually, just like I was saying, when you eradicate your past, the past was just a story now. And as long as I hold on to the story that my mother is stupid and that she is bipolar and that she was mean to me when I was a child or a young man or whatever she did, it was just a story that was brought on by the process of her being raised by a legion of idiots that did not understand how much love this woman had for not only herself, not only humanity, not only them, but everyone in humanity, except herself. She's the most probably insecure person I know. I know on the other side, she is a god. She is a god of all kinds of power. And then I was able to see her like that. And it was just the most amazing thing for me. I never ever felt 1 ounce of anger or frustration with her again. Okay, every now and then, you know how moms are. But I'm able to work right through that moment, get right back to who she really is, and speak to that person. When you speak to the Creator God in people, it's a whole new conversation. It's a completely new conversation. It was just awesome. Now, I want you to understand how that could translate into your life. You may say, well, I had that issue with my dad, or I had that issue with this person or that person. It works with any person. It works with any male, female, female to male, female to female. You can easily look into people's history. See how their parents raised them. See how their parents' parents raised their parents. Blah, 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 on down the line. You can then take into in the consciousness of society when they grew up. The consciousness of society was completely different than it is right now. There were certainly brilliant, enlightened people then, but I don't feel like there were nearly as much. There was a lot more dogma. There was a lot more fear and judgment. Okay? Let's just do that. Go that way. So, I want you to know that when you start to see, especially you people that have had the most trauma, okay? The people that have had the most trauma were raised by the biggest idiots that had the biggest legion of idiots that they were raised by. You are here simply to let joy and the experience of joy break that cycle. Break that cycle so that it never happens again in your lineage, okay? In your wake that you leave behind. It's really, again, the conversation. What conversation are we having? Okay? Stick to it. Love it. Love your life. Create joy. The experience of joy for yourself and others. And that includes your mom and your dad. Now, the one thing is I do want to finish up with is that it didn't take long before I realized the next major thing that happened was that obviously now that I could wipe clean the slate of my relationship with my mother, now I can have an amazing relationship with other women, all other women. If I ever happen to find one that I want to have a real relationship with, I will be able to, because I love my mother very, very, very much. All right? I also want to leave you with one other thing. My car's turning off. I'll turn it back on. With one other thing is that you call that an awakening. Is it a spiritual awakening? Well, actually, is it a psychological awakening? Well, it is all of those, because there's one word that's tied to all of them, and that's emotion. The emotions of that entire vibratory situation is what created the story, the conversation, to finally learn to forgive and understand and bring back more joy and the experience of joy for myself, my mother, and all the women I meet. Again, Naya told me that I was brought here to bring divine masculinity to the world. That Gaia wanted me to help balance that over-masculine vibe. And so that's what I'm here to do, and I hope that that helped some of you guys with your issues. I hope that helped some of you ladies with yours. And love you much. Big hugs. See you soon.